Good morning, Lake listeners. Thank you for coming back for more of the Grow, Thrive, and Inspire podcast. We have so much fun with these Coffee with Our Broker episodes, and today we have our broker owner, Jason Whittle, here for your morning tip. What an awesome morning, huh, Jason?
It is. Thanks, Galen, for having me on. I'm looking forward to it. And
how's your coffee?
It's good. I think I'm on my third cup, so I may have to leave here and go pee because I'm like a little kid. Coffee runs straight through me. So if I run out, you're going to have to cover for me.
I can do that. I totally can. So with these broker segments, one thing that I have always personally admired about you, Jason, especially over the years of me working with you, is your incredibly detailed and disciplined routine. I love that this is kind of your tip today also is this topic. So before you tell us what you kind of do each day and maybe why it's important, can you tell us why you started the routine in general, maybe like when you started it, how that happened?
Well, we've got 6 kids, and so 6 kids and lots of stuff going on. And so I was losing my mind, and Natalie was going to kill me if something didn't change. And so, one of the great things about being in real estate is that you get to set your own hours. And one of the worst things about real estate is you get to set your own hours. It's a double-edged sword. And so what I've found is, and what anybody who you see who's successful typically usually is really structured. Even though you get to set your own hours, they set their own hours. They set things. And so what I found is you have to be intentional. And so what I found was when I wasn't intentional, like when I first started, like you end up working all the time. I mean, there is literally always something else you can be doing in real estate. And so if you don't set your hours, if you don't set your schedule is going to set you. And so you have to be just super intentional about that. And so I kind of already knew that. And I was kind of, football was obviously every minute of every day was structured. And so for me, that was one of the biggest adjustments coming out of that, where every minute of my day was set. Like literally, if you looked at our itinerary, it was like 7:34, you go to the offensive meeting at 7:38, you break into this,
right.
Every
I'm
practice.
Sure it wasn't like you couldn't steer very far either.
Not at all. I mean, everything was structured. And then so coming into real estate, all of a sudden you're just like, woo, you can do whatever. And I was an early morning guy. And so when I first got into real estate, like I'd get to the office at like 6 a.m. and get a bunch of stuff done. I'd be ready to call people by 7:30. Where in real estate, you find out that, dang, most real estate agents aren't up before. It doesn't feel like before 10. And so you try to make all these calls and you'd be ready to go home. I'd be ready to go home at that time by 2 or 3, but that was really just the time that things were starting to come into play. So one of the big things, one of the big turning points, or one of the things that really kind of helped turn the page, was I read a book called The Miracle Morning. And you've heard me talk a lot about that, but it was just,
I love that book.
Yeah, it was great. And I was already an early morning guy. But
were you an early morning person, like even when you were a kid? I'm just curious.
Not when I was a kid. No, when I was a teenager.
He is up religiously by 6:30 a.m.
That changes whenever they get to teenage years. Teenage years, all of a sudden they can sleep till 1 or 2 or what. I mean, literally, I think they'd sleep the whole day. Sometimes I think they're vampires. But football, I was always one of those guys that was the first one to the locker room. I'd get there early. I'd sit in the cold tub, the hot tub, get my therapy done, read. And so some of that transitioned. I took kind of that general idea of using my morning time. And then when I read The Miracle Morning, then I became really focused. I also read one of my other favorite books is The 7 Habits of Highly Successful People. And those 2 books in the Bible are probably like, those 3 are like you read those 3 and you're gonna be successful, I feel like. But taking that morning for me was life changing. So my schedule, my schedule.
I was gonna say, what's your routine?
Yeah, so 4:47 it's a weird number, but 4:47 I get up every morning. 4:47 I get up, I go straight to the hot tub. Since it's right outside our bedroom, and I read and just kind of have quiet time, and then leave there, go to the gym, get in the gym. The hot tub allows me to walk because I'm kind of stiff. I'm getting old and stiff. So the hot tub is, if I don't do the hot tub, I'm in a world of hurt. So then to go to the gym, come home from the gym, and then if it's during the school year, then Nat and I will make breakfast together for the kids, and we do breakfast. That's kind of our time with the family. One of the things that was really frustrating as the girls got older was we wanted to have family meals, and dinner was just all of a sudden 4 or 5 nights a week. You can't, because practices and games and people are going in different directions, and so morning breakfast became our time. That's our time to have conversation. Sometimes we do little devos during that time. I mean, those breakfasts are kind of what the old family dinners used to be like. And so that's been a lifesaver. And then I get to work, and that's kind of my day. And obviously my day is not quite as structured, but I everything I have is on my calendar, even like dates with my wife or dates with our kids. Because again, if you're not intentional about it, or if I'm not intentional, it doesn't happen. So I've got to put it on my calendar. And Jeff and I will kind of touch base each day. Hey, what do you have on your calendar? Just to make sure we haven't put something on the wrong day or something. Because again, if it's not in the calendar, it doesn't happen. So
I can understand that. People make fun of my calendar because I have it color coded and.
Oh yeah, I've seen yours. It's impressive.
Yeah.
Mine doesn't look like that, but
I take a lot of pride in my calendar. So
I wouldn't know how to do that, but
let's get to kind of your tip though for this episode. Let's have you elaborate to our listeners why having that morning routine or just a routine in general is so important.
Yeah. So let me say this. Mine happens to be in the morning. I know some really successful, like Jane Kelly is not like, she doesn't get to the office till a little later, but she's here at 6 o'clock. 5 o'clock, she's making phone calls, in the evening. I do know this about her though. She's got a strong routine. So whether it's in the morning or whether it's in the afternoon, wherever is, again, your strength, I feel like it's not when you do it, but it's making sure that it's set, that it's structured, that you're either time blocking. There's lots of different ways to set your calendar, whether it's time blocking, whether it's just having a set time every day, whether it's, and I love Brian Buffini. We talk a lot about Brian Buffini and different coaches, but Buffini is one of those guys that he's all about the people like, and trust, and why wouldn't you work with those people? So if you're taking the time to reach out to those every day, there should be a time to make 3 to 10 calls every day. And so, again, it's not about when you do it, but it's about doing it each and every day. It's that consistency over time. We talk a lot about that, doing the small things consistently over time, and your schedules allows you to do that. If you don't have a set schedule, it's really hard to do that.
Right. Well, and not only just to accomplish what like your goals might be or what you're trying to do that day, but also having an intentional schedule means allowing yourself time as well. Like you were saying at the beginning, real estate, you can make your own hours. Being intentional with that schedule can help with you actually having free time as well, not just getting all of your stuff done.
Yeah, it's interesting in real estate, there's this weird phenomenon that happens because when you first get in it, you have all this time because you're not busy. You just don't have a book of business. So it's really important that you're structured so that you're creating, you're really intentional about creating business and creating those good habits. But then all of a sudden, if you're doing what you're supposed to be doing consistently over time, you're going to be busy. And what happens is if you haven't done those things, if you haven't put those things in place before, it's really hard to go back after you're busy. And so that's whenever you see the agents that never have any time to do anything, they haven't put those things in place. And now real estate runs their life. They're working 90, 100 hours a week and spinning their wheels because they weren't intentional whenever they were less busy.
One thing that I really enjoy when we talk about like our activities management class, when you've sat in some of those, is you've always explained how you've kind of looked at your schedule and that process of identifying what's working, what's not working, that Eisenhower matrix, things like that. So what are some quick tips that you could give our listeners for maybe starting a routine if they don't really have a good one, or maybe changing theirs up?
I would start with a book. I would read The Miracle Morning, and it doesn't necessarily have to apply again for the morning. Uh, Myself, I'm a big delegator. Obviously, we've got a team of people that maybe you don't have that, but at the end of the day, there's things that we can delegate. And what I mean by that, there's, everything. I always look at everything as dollar producing.
Mm-hmm.
If it's a dollar producing activity, that
Or
should
vital,
be,
yeah.
or vital, vital activity. But I try to delegate as many things as I can, especially the things that I'm not good at.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of things that I'm not good at. So I delegate a lot of things. And so each morning I try to sit down and figure out what it is I'm going to delegate for the day. And some of those things I already have figured out. Some of those things are running things that are just delegated, but some things aren't. There's things that pop up in real estate. Frank used to say, I'm walking around with a hand grenade in my pocket. I'm just waiting for it to go off. You just don't know when things are going to blow up in real estate for you. So again, the more people, I always hear the excuse, well, I can't be because things happen, and that's true. Things do happen. But again, you take that time, you evaluate,
Mm-hmm.
Is it really a hand grenade that went off in your pocket, or was it just a BB gun? A lot of times there's these crazy, what people make out to be emergencies, which maybe aren't emergencies. They shouldn't take you off of task of what you're doing at that point. Not that they can be ignored for very long, but they shouldn't take you off your task of what you're doing right now. So just evaluate the problem as it occurs. If it is truly something, then address it. If it's not,
Come back to it.
Come back to it once you're finished with your.
Yeah, or move it to whatever time block that it's appropriate or something.
Exactly. And too many people just, I'm too busy to do that. And it's that vicious cycle that real estate agents get in. You've got to, the earlier you do that in your career, the more successful you're going to be.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I think it works in all aspects of your life.
For sure.
I know personally, I have taken that mentality and I've applied it to parenting, for example. So when my kids spill milk on the floor, I take a step back even in that moment. I'm like, okay, what am I reacting to? Is it just spilt milk on the floor right. Or is it something monumental, so.
Yep, that's exactly right. It applies in all aspects of our life. And that's one of the great things about real estate.
So last question, what would you tell new agents or those interested in real estate about establishing kind of a schedule?
Well, first of all, you got to figure out what works for you. Mm-hmm. You got to figure out what's your strength. Are you morning or evening? Are you middle of the day? When are you most productive? Mm-hmm. For me, it's morning. Utilize that time. Don't try to force something that's not you. If you're just being lazy, don't do that. Don't make excuses. But at the same time, figure out what works for you, and then take some time and actually write it down. Mm-hmm. Whether it's, and I say write it down, it can be on your phone. If you're I know some really successful agents that don't use anything electronic. They're mm-hmm. all paper. Their calendars on a old true calendar. Mm-hmm. That doesn't work for me. All of our stuff is synced with our family, but for some people, that's what works for them. And so whatever it is that works for you, do it. And I guess that's kind of it's not going to happen unless you do it. And you've got to set time. It's kind of the old adage, you can't be so busy working on your business or in your business that you can't work on your business. And working on your business will allow you to be much more efficient. So
yeah, I think that's solid advice. I'd also just add to it and say, don't be afraid to reevaluate either. I know I personally, I look at kind of what I've done for a week and then what worked, what didn't work, change up the things that didn't work a little bit and try it again, and that's.
For sure. Every week is not going to look the same in real estate. Mm-hmm. It's just not, every day is not going to look the same. So, as you get into a rhythm and as you kind of have your, part of it's what works around my personal schedule. You have, as real estate agents, I always tell you have to schedule a day off.
Yeah.
And it feels really silly when they first get into real estate because they have a ton of free time and they're like, well, I can take 3 days. Mm-hmm. You can take 3 days off and you can take, you can work your way right out of the business. Treat your business like a business. Set your days off, whether it's a Tuesday or a Sunday or whatever the day is, just stick with it. You've got appointments that day. When you're first starting, you may have to juggle that a little bit, if mm-hmm. a good client comes in. But the reality is that most people don't do that. Mm-hmm. They just wait to, which day am I not going to be busy? well, at some point, hopefully in your career, there's never going to be a day you're not busy. If you've done what you're supposed to do, every day is busy. And so you've just got to be really intentional with that.
Well, Grow, Thrive, and Inspire listeners, thank you for tuning back into our Coffee with Our Broker episode. We sure do hope that you get some value from these amazing tips. Big thank you to Jason for sharing his experience with this important practice. Remember to find us on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Spotify, and iTunes. Likes, subscribes, and shares are always appreciated. Be sure to also check out our open houses coming up. Open houses are posted on Thursdays for the upcoming weekend on our Facebook page. Let us help you find the home you love and love the home that you get. And remember to always grow, thrive, and inspire.